Hey, everybody should have gotten a consent to recording button or something pop up. Um, so as I was saying earlier, this is probably going to be a very short and informational meeting. Um, because Amy is still out on medical leave, unfortunately. We think good thoughts for her recovery and she'll be back for the next meeting is the plan. So and then we've had a number of cancellations, but I thought, let's still walk through where we are on things. We don't have a quorum, so we won't be able to approve the Partition of Heirs Property Act part of things. And I will probably leave, well, we can go through the budget. It looks like we don't have a quorum to approve it, but we'll go through the budget. And we'll leave the work plan for when Amy's back in for our next meeting, if that's okay. All right, good. Well, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Thank you again so much for all of your time and joining us today. So we're recording this. It is 10 a.m. on April 18th, 2025. So as far as commission membership, which is the first item on our agenda, as you know, John is rolling off, leaving us. And I know that you were talking with Amy about finding someone as a potential replacement.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll have some good news there next time we join.
Yeah. And I'm going
Um,
to bring it up again internally.
Yeah, that would be great. We'd really appreciate it because I think we've got some exciting projects on the horizon, as well as some bigger things that are being kicked around, as far as, helping the legislature with some big questions. Hi, Matt. Thank you for joining us. And, so that way it would be nice to have someone good from Lewis and Clark. Um, so, um, cannot approve the minutes, but did anybody have any edits to them that you know of? Okay. If anyone watching the recording has any edits or if folks find anything, we will approve them at our next meeting, which will be, I believe, in June, July. And then we'll go from there. So, I read them through and they looked fine to me. So, as all of you know, the 2025 legislative session is ongoing. And, thank you for joining us, Representative Wallen. And I just wanted to have a special shout out to Justice Duncan and Krista because I've heard that you have been talking to a lot of folks in Salem about House Bill 2460, which is it made it through the House. So, congratulations. That's a huge accomplishment. And it's currently in the Senate Judiciary Committee. So it survived the first House deadline. And I think that's worth celebrating, honestly, and thanks to Amy's work and the work of our friends at the legislature, both of our bills are in a position now where they've survived the first House deadline, which is, more than we've done in the past. So I think that's a huge accomplishment. Um, and it sounds like some really good discussions were had at the House level. I don't know, Krista, if you want to add anything to talk about 2460.
So we don't have any opposition to it, so I'm hoping that it will make its way through in due time. And we did have our first public hearing in the Senate Judiciary Committee, so we're in a good position, I think.
Fantastic. Yeah, that was on Monday, right? Yeah, so thank you so much for all that you've done, and especially stepping up with Amy being out. I really do appreciate that. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for 2460, and then Senate Bill 164 made it out of the Judiciary Committee in the Senate and is now in the Revenue Committee, I believe, which means I'm told that it's immune from the first House, second House deadlines. But the issue is that Secretary of State's office has a fiscal impact that landed on it, which is somewhat more than we were expecting. But hopefully we can navigate that, and Amy will be able to help with that once she's back. Um, because I think, there was it was really interesting to me, and unfortunately Cody is not able to join us, but there were some discussions that Cody and Lane Shetterly had with the folks at OTLAW and OBI to navigate a middle road on a provision that one was concerned would create additional causes of action. It's that section 12 that we talked about last time. And the other was concerned would, unduly restrict causes of action. So I think where they ended up is just removing the section. So, but working out that compromise and watching that compromise get worked out was very educational for me, and I think a really good demonstration of the good conversations that we can have as part of the commission process. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed that we're able to overcome the hurdle of the fiscal impact statement, because I'd hate to see, what are we at, 7 years now of hard work go down the drain because of that. But that's all I know about that point. So, but thanks to Chris, who's on the call again, for all of his help and his team's help in working with the Senate Judiciary folks, because I thought that was a really positive process. Any questions about where we are on the, Representative Wallen?
Hi, no, not a question, but a way to potentially not defeat, but manage that fiscal
Okay.
is when the bill is up for its hearing in the subcommittee, and I don't know if that's already happened, but whenever that happens, people can go testify, and I recommend that.
Yes. And we absolutely will. I think right now it's not scheduled for anything. But I've been,
You can also like ask for it to be scheduled,
yeah.
or seriously, you kind of have to advocate for, especially this cycle.
Yeah.
The chairs are different and they're operating differently than they have before.
Okay.
And so you really have to get your request kind of out in front of them in multiple ways.
That is super helpful to know. And so maybe what I'll do then is reach out to the folks over at Revenue Committee.
Yeah.
Chris, do you know who would be the person to reach out to over there? Well, he may not have. I'll email folks after this call, because I do want to make sure it keeps moving forward. And then we'll get that on the calendar and go down. Yeah, I very much enjoyed the conversations that we had in the Judiciary Committee about the LLC Act and about, people's concerns, because again, I think it's an opportunity for us as the Law Commission to show that we really do care about making sure that we navigate a road through, people's concerns and address those concerns in a positive and uplifting way. So good. That will be an action item for me to follow up. And thank you, Representative Wallen, for that suggestion. Okay. E-wills. So anything else on the 2025 bills? I think, but I'm feeling good about where both bills are. I think that we're moving things forward in a positive way, and I remain optimistic that both will make it through before the end of session. So, they both they're so different, which is what's so interesting to me about them. But in a challenging session, I think it's probably nice to have some consensus bills. Okay. Active and proposed projects. So just an update on e-wills. I know that they're planning on getting started this month. That may have gotten pushed back a little bit because of Amy's illness, but I talked with Amy before she went out, and then with some of the committee members, and they're all really eager to get going and start having discussions about the possibility of having electronic wills in Oregon. My thought is that this is definitely an access to justice issue, because the concentration of estate planners, of course, is in Portland Metro and the I-5 corridor. So, if you're in far eastern Oregon, it can be difficult to get folks' attention sometimes. So the hope is that this will allow folks to have access to legal services in a way they haven't before. Partition of Heirs Property Act, we were going to have an action item to approve the proposal this meeting, but we don't have a quorum, so that's fine. And we can approve the proposal. I mean, I expect that it won't be a problem getting a proposal approved at the June meeting. So, I think we will have more information about what that looks like, as well as probably the committee members by that point. I had a good conversation with Susan Gary, who's in Hong Kong right now, but was at the ACTEC meeting in Palm Springs last month. And so she and I sat down and talked through, some of the constituents that we want to make sure we have serve on that group. And so we'll have a proposal for you coming up. I'm going to table the potential concepts question because I know Amy had some conversations with the uniform laws folks about those. And the corporate act is probably not moving forward unless we get folks who are interested in serving on the work group. I think the business law section believes that it's a good idea, and I agree that it is a good idea, but there's a tremendous amount of work that needs to happen before that comes into play. And so, that's where we are on that. But there's a couple of other things that are percolating through. So we'll give you a more detailed update once we're back up and running in June. Financials, you all received a copy of the budget as it stands right now. And let me pull it up. Agenda minutes proposal. Let's see if it's the right one. Yeah. And one of the things, the really only variation between, as far as I could tell, the only real variation between where we were when we approved the budget last time and where we are going to be going forward is just some additional detail about the OPE, which I understand is benefits and fully loaded employee costs for Amy's position, and then moving some stuff around into different boxes. The other thing that I think it takes into account is hiring a legal assistant or an administrative assistant to help with the work of the commission, which I think will be great because then Amy won't be doing all the scheduling herself. And I think that's at a 0.5 FTE is my understanding, but we'll have more detail on that once Amy's back. We are looking forward to hiring students again. I think that was really successful last summer and over the course of the school year has been very successful. Our first law clerk, who is now finishing up her 1L year at U of O, did great, and Tommy has been fantastic as our interim Portland program student. So watch this space. I know that we would like to hire potentially students at Willamette and Lewis and Clark as well for the clerkships. So I think we were navigating that and continue to navigate that. But I think the work of the commission provides some really interesting questions and opportunities for students that they may not get elsewhere. And I think we finally figured out how to pay students out of the U of O money, which took us a little bit of time last summer. Equipment, you see the equipment numbers a little bit bigger, and that's just because we're told that we need to reserve for a new server because the one that we have apparently is old. But that's to be expected. And then conferences, yeah. So if anybody has any questions about the budget or any of the proposed items, please let me know. Amy and I worked through it and they seemed pretty reasonable to me given what actuals have been and what we're likely to see going forward. One thing that I've asked her to do is to make sure that she builds in enough into the budget to make sure that we are able, as far as travel, to make sure that we're able to connect with constituencies outside of Portland-Salem because we are a statewide commission, and so those voices are really important to hear from other parts of the state as well. And we can do a lot virtually, but there's also a lot of value to be gained from in-person meetings and meeting with folks who have great ideas outside of Portland Metro. So, any questions about the budget? Yeah. Oh, look, I did that without the budget justification notes, which were not on my screen. All right. So if you are like me, questions will occur to you in about 20 minutes after we get off the call. And so don't hesitate to reach out. We really want to make sure that we are being thoughtful and responsive to everybody's concerns as it, concerns the work of the commission. Let's see, where are we on the agenda? So similarly, I've asked Amy to put together the work plan. We don't have to approve the work plan as a group, but I did ask her to do this because I think it's important that we as commissioners, like a board of directors with a corporation, set the big picture of what is the commission working on, where are we going, and then Amy figures out the roadmap to get there, and is in charge of all those details. So if you have any questions about the work plan or anything else that were in the attachments to the meeting, please let me know or let Amy know. We'll do a more detailed dive in our next meeting on everything, but I think we're in good shape as far as, it's hard to believe, but it's really only been about a year since Amy joined us at the commission. And so I think the leaps and bounds that we've taken from where we were, a year or 18 months ago, it's almost like night and day from my perspective. So, I think we will just continue to try and get, the work of the commission done and address questions as they come up. The one position that we do have is PK Runkles Pearson's position, which is the governor appointed position. And, I think we've been noodling through who would be a good candidate in that position. I personally would love it if we could find someone from Central Oregon or Eastern Oregon. So to the extent that folks know of someone who's doing really good work over there, I would love to hear that. Southern Oregon as well. I mean, I think outside of the Portland-Salem bubble, because I do think hearing voices from outside of, the bubble that I live in, for example, has some value. So it has a lot of value and will help us come to a more informed decision on some of these projects that we're looking at that have an impact and could have an impact on Oregonians across the state. So, having rocketed through the entire agenda, do folks have anything else that they want to talk about or questions that, have come up in the interim about the commission? Okay. So if you're like me, again, something may occur to you in about 20 minutes. Don't hesitate to reach out. You all have my contact information. That's what I've got as far as a commission meeting, because yes.
Valerie, I just had a quick question about an email that I had sent you in regard to a potential criminal law thing that the commission could do. I was just wondering if I could follow up and have a conversation about that, but I don't think it would be relevant for everyone here.
For everybody? Yeah, why don't you stay on and we can just have a chat about that. I mean, and this is something that I would like for us to think about maybe at the next meeting. I know that it's been challenging times in the criminal defense world, particularly recently. And because we don't take positions on things, we've been sort of holding back and saying, okay, well, you know, we've had a number of proposals come in, or at least conversations that have started about criminal law. And so I guess maybe we can talk, we can talk, you and I can talk after this meeting, but then we can talk after in our next meeting, and maybe in the interim about, you know, sort of what the commission's appetite is for diving into some of these sort of stickier issues that have sort of immediate political and financial relevance. I think we've avoided it in the past, but we don't necessarily have to. You know, we were certainly involved in the workplace harassment projects. So, anything else for the good of the order? Chris, did you raise your hand? No? Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, then I am going to adjourn this meeting 23 minutes into it. No promises that we'll keep meetings this short in the future, but I do like a short meeting. So, let me stop the recording.